Hey guys, it's Ben here for Next Level Producer. A while ago I was watching a YouTube video, some sort of a documentary about Butch Walker. He is a fairly unknown songwriter and producer, at least here in the Netherlands. Almost nobody's ever heard of him. In America he's sort of well known because he's a songwriter and producer who works with big artists like Avril Lavigne, Green Day, Fall Out Boy, Weezer, etc., etc. He's written some really big songs that you probably have heard. And I've been a massive fan of Butch Walker since as long as I seriously started making music. He's been a huge influence on my music. If you listen to his solo records, you definitely can hear the influence that he has and has had on my music. So I was watching this video and I was watching him work in the studio, and I was hugely inspired by this, and inspiration started to flow. So long story short, this is what led to me writing and producing my latest single called Phoenix by my singer-songwriter project Benjamin Theodore. And you can definitely hear the influence Butch Walker has had in this song. So today I would like to play this song for you and to show you how I created it in a DAW that's brand new to me. This was the first time that I used this DAW. It's the Luna platform by Universal Audio. And let me know in the comments if you have already worked with this DAW or not. Because I would love to hear from you what your opinions are on this DAW, if you like it, yes or no. And without further ado, I'm going to play the song for you. It's called Phoenix. You can check it out on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you stream music. It would be greatly appreciated if you like this song that you give me a follow on Spotify as well. I'm releasing a lot of music lately and there's a lot more coming, so I appreciate you listening, streaming, and following me on Spotify, also on Instagram or wherever. So let me just play the song for you. If you've already heard it, you can listen to it again, or feel free to skip ahead a few minutes.
I was browsing on the internet while I was laying in my bed. I saw you posting on the gram. Goddamn. And now it feels like yesterday that we were going our own ways. But everything's said and done, and now I'm gone. Hey, I've got brand new shoes and I'm walking around like I own this town. I said, hey, don't try to bring me down, 'cause nothing's gonna stop me now, 'cause I'm rising up. I'm rising up. You were supposed to guide me through, but I couldn't really trust you. So I had to figure out myself how to be myself. I said, hey, I've got brand new shoes and I'm walking around like I own this town. I said, hey, don't try to bring me down, 'cause nothing's gonna stop me now, 'cause I'm rising up. I'm rising up. I'm leaving everything behind. Now I'm ready to shine, 'cause I'm rising up. Don't you dare to try and call me out or pull me under, while I'm rising from the ashes like a phoenix. Don't you dare to try and call me out or pull me under, while I'm rising from the ashes like a phoenix. Hey, I've got brand new shoes and I'm walking around like like I own this town. I said, hey, don't try to bring me down, 'cause nothing's gonna stop me now. I'm rising up. I'm rising up. I'm leaving everything behind. Now I'm ready to shine, 'cause I'm rising up. Don't you dare to try and pull me out or pull me under, while I'm rising from the ashes like a phoenix. Don't you dare to try and pull me out or pull me under, while I'm rising from the ashes like a phoenix.
Alright, so that's Phoenix by Benjamin Theodore. It's my singer-songwriter artist name. You can check it out on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you stream music. I'll leave a link down in the description so you can click and go ahead and stream it. Thank you so much. So this was my first time using Luna, the DAW that comes free with all Apollo interfaces. If you buy an interface by Universal Audio, you can just download this DAW and start using it. And I have an Apollo interface here in the studio, and I used Luna when we were recording drums at Marcel Zimmer's studio. You might have seen that video where we talked about Luna briefly. So I was really curious to try it out myself, and so I finally did. And this is what came out, and I must say I'm really impressed. First of all, I love the sound quality. If you have used Pro Tools and Logic, you might have noticed there's like a noticeable sound quality difference. There's a difference that to me sounds like Pro Tools sounds a lot tighter. It has a lot tighter, a lot more, how do I say this? The bass response is a lot tighter. It's easier to get a certain depth in the low end than it is when you're mixing or producing in Logic. Logic sounds a little more flat to me. I don't know if you've noticed this as well. If you've perceived this difference, let me know in the comments if you have. And maybe you disagree. Maybe you think Logic sounds a lot better than Pro Tools. Well, anyway, I was an avid Pro Tools user for years, pun intended. And I've created a lot of music with Pro Tools, so I love the sound. I love that it's sort of like a clean canvas. And when I transitioned to Logic, because I love that workflow, it's a lot easier and quicker to create certain productions with Logic than it is with Pro Tools. I sort of had to live with the compromise in audio quality. Well, this sort of faded away, but it became apparent again when I started using Luna again, because this has the same or maybe even a better audio engine to me. It sounds better to me than Pro Tools. So this has the same depth. It's so much easier to get a certain feel in the low end, and it's hard to describe with words, but if you have noticed this, you know what I'm talking about. So that's, first of all, what I love about Luna. Second of all, is this was a completely new DAW to me, but still I was able to create this production and this mix and all these recordings in one day with Luna, being a completely new user. So it's a very intuitive DAW to me. I love that you can just drag and drop plugins, and of course it integrates very tightly with Universal Audio plugins, but you can of course use third-party plugins as well. That just works normally, but I love that it's really visual. So if you are using the Universal Audio plugins, you can just see little screenshots here, or what do you call it, snapshots. I don't know what's called, but you can see little pictures of the plugins you're using, and it's really intuitive. And I got the most, and this is a controversial statement, but the most analog sounding mix out of this that I've ever created. More analog than what I've been using with Logic or Pro Tools. And this is, of course, a really relative statement, because what is analog these days? Well, I think the Universal Audio plugin sounds really good, and they come really close to sounding like the real thing. So anyway, what I love about this mix is that there's a lot of analog sounding distortion. When I listened back to it the next day, I was sort of thinking like, is there anything wrong with my studio monitors? Is there anything blowing up? What the heck is wrong? But this is just how I mixed this intuitively. And if we go to the bridge section, I think that's over. Oh yeah, this is where it's really apparent. You can check it out. I'm really overdriving the mix bus, and this is what really adds to the sort of aggressive tone. I'm overdriving the virtual mix bus plugin. I've set it to the SSL setting, 4K. I'm adding a little bit more drive, but I'm also overdriving the Studer Tape Machine plugin. Just watch and see what happens. From the ashes like a phoenix. Hey, I've got so it's really it's slamming, and this is something that was just done not really on purpose, but it was done by ear. So this sounded really good to me in the moment, so I kept this. But if I would have paid attention to the meters, I probably would have dialed this back. So this is why you should always trust your ears and not your screen. So this is what I love about this plugin. It really has this analog drive. If you drive analog hardware, you get a certain kind of distortion, and this is what I got out of this plugins as well. So I love this. So let's start with the mix bus. Again, this is the SSL sort of sound that is being added. Tape machine, 30 IPS. So it's adding a little bit of glue, roundness, etc., etc. And then I'm using the SSL bus compressor by SSL, the original plugin. And it's set to the default setting. I love this. I think I added the oversampling. I don't know if it's making a lot of difference, but anyway, I love this plugin. In fact, I loved it so much, I was demoing it on this mix, but I ended up having to subscribe to their plugins because I needed this plugin and I loved it so much. So that's how that works. So that's adding a little bit of glue, a little bit of tightness, the SSL kind of sound, which is really appropriate. So the funny thing is, I was telling you about how this started with me watching a video about Butch Walker. Well, as soon as I was done watching the video, I was super inspired. I opened my phone because I have a lot of ideas in my voice memo app. And there was an idea on top that was called Butch Walker High Energy Idea or something like that. So this was really meant to be. So I grabbed that idea. That was just an acoustic. I think I have a guide track here. I don't know what. It feels like yesterday. Oh yeah. Sort of a little quiet. So that's just me playing the song on an acoustic guitar and singing it as well. So it started with an acoustic guitar and vocals. And I wrote the lyrics and everything really quickly. So this is the acoustic guitar. I'm using my Slate Digital ML1 mic on the AKG C12 setting. And then this is something that I've tried on this song. I added the Fairchild compressor to a lot of tracks and I cranked the input gain to give it some more distortion, harmonic distortion, and some really analog drive. So I think it's compressing a bit on this particular track. Quite a lot actually. Without. It sounds really nice, and that's not appropriate for this track. Butch Walker loves to drive his stuff through plugins or through analog hardware as well. So that's what I tried in this instance as well. Then going into the tape machine on 15 IPS. it's adding some more of that analog kind of feel. Then I recorded my vocals.
Browsing on the internet while I was laying in my bed. I saw your post.
And I used a different microphone model than I normally would. So that's what I love about this song as well, that I really started experimenting, because the DAW was so new to me that I was there. It opened a sort of different window in my brain. And that's what I love about trying new stuff. I'm using, I think this is a Neumann microphone, and I'm really hammering it with the distressor compressor, and adding a little bit of EQ. Normally I'm EQing and then compressing, but for some reason this is I did it the other way around.
I was browsing on the internet,
really slamming it with the compressor here.
I saw you posting on the gram. Goddamn. And now it feels like yesterday.
So it's really dry and in your face. And then in comes the band. Oh yeah, this is sort of a drum loop that I've created with SSD sampler, Stephen Slade drums digital, and it's the same pattern that gets introduced here.
And now it feels like yesterday.
This one. So this is just a sampler. This is not real drums, but it sounded really great to me. I added the Fairchild. Again, driving the input gain. I'm adding the Studer as well, so this is just copy paste stuff. Bam.
Your shoes and I'm walking around like I own this town.
So going back to the intro section, the drums are just copied, and I added an EQ to roll off the lows and the highs, the infinite EQ. Then added some more saturation and even more saturation. That's
in my bed.
And this is something that I've heard Butch Walker do as well. So, alright, let's see. We have the bass here. Fender Jazz Bass.
And now it feels like yesterday.
Just a little saturation and a Studer, but it sounds amazing. I think I recorded, oh yeah, I recorded this through an Ampeg plugin by Universal Audio, because the great thing is with Luna, it integrates perfectly with the Apollo interface. So you can record through plugins like you would record through analog hardware. So it's without any latency, you record through the plugin. So that gets printed on the recording. So that's what I love, because you commit to a certain sound, and the sooner you commit to a certain sound, I think the better it gets, because you're not postponing decisions you have to make as a producer or an artist. You're making the decisions in the moment. So just go ahead and record it with compression added, with EQ added, with saturation added, because that makes your life and your job as a mixer or a producer a lot easier. You can see that there are not that much plugins on this production, and that's partly because I recorded through some plugins, and that's the case with this bass. So I just added a little saturation and the tape machine again to give it a certain flavor, and that's the bass sound. Then I'm using 2 different guitar parts. This is the Chandler GAVT V19T amp, and Universal Audio has a version of this as well, but I previously bought the Plugin Alliance version, so it's run natively, and I love this. It's really versatile, it sounds amazing. So that's the first guitar part. I added a little free guitar overdrive pedal. It's sort of a Klon Centaur pedal, which sounds amazing as well. You can download it for free on the Nambrini Audio website. tuner. And then the second guitar part, that's frozen because I was using this Marshall amplifier on the Apollo interface processing. So keep in mind, if you're using Luna without an Apollo interface, you cannot use the processing, of course, which is on the interface itself. So if you are using plugins that need that processing, you can freeze them or print them so you can play them when you're not using your Apollo interface. So that's one thing that always was a little that I didn't like about using an Apollo interface, and that's a little cumbersome, but this is a workaround. So I was using the Marshall Plexi amplifier with the Klon Centaur, a little delay, and that's this part. Played stars over here. Oh yeah, this is pitched down in the first chorus. This is the actual sound. So this is a Telecaster, and the left guitar is my Strat on the bridge pickup. Adds a little contrast. Then I'm adding some sort of 12-string guitar with a sample.
But I couldn't really trust in this one, so
There's a synthesizer part. It sounds like this. Very simple. Easy does it now. And in the intro section, I'm using the same part, but I think it's processed a little different. Oh, it's a different sounds, a little shorter. So that's that. Then I'm using some more backing vocals, and I recorded everything on one day except for the backing vocals. I added that later. Well, at least the harmony.
like I own this town. I said, hey, don't try to bring me down, cause nothing's gonna stop me now, cause I'm rising up.
Sounds a little auto-tuney when you play it in solo, but in context it sounds great.
Yeah, I've got brand new shoes and I'm walking around like I own this town. I said, hey, don't try to bring me down, cause nothing's gonna stop me now.
And that's basically the entire mix. So maybe you're curious to see what I use on the vocals. It's really easy. Let me show you this processing as I showed you before. Then 1176 compressor.
Yeah, I've got brand new shoes and I'm walking
Really slamming
around
it.
like I own this town. I said, hey.
Then this is something that I normally do the other way around as well. Then I added some pitch correction, and normally I start with pitch correction because you want to tune the not the compressed and EQ'd vocal, but you want to tune the dry vocal. But for some reason I did it the other way around. So then I added pitch correction first manually, like on 50%, just correcting some individual notes, and then I added some auto tune it's on 100% this time to give it a sort of pop flavor. This is more to add a certain sound. The Waves tune is to really correct stuff, and the Meta tune, it's just like an auto tune plugin, adds a certain flavor to the vocal, which I loved in this instance. So that's basically the entire production. What you hear on Spotify is the mastered version. Of course, it's mastered by Pier Dirk Hogeterp, our friend from Friesland. He did an amazing job. He mastered it the first time, and that it was a little too poppy for me, so he changed it a bit, and then it was perfect. It sounded a little bit more vintage, had a little bit more punch. So I really love it. So I hope this was interesting to you. I hope you liked the song. If not, that's okay too. But if you love it, please check it out on Spotify. Click on the heart icon and follow me there, because there's a lot more music coming as well. If you would like to work with me as a mentor, a coach, or if you would just like to hire me as a producer or a mixer or whatever, there's a link down in the description below where you can check out all my stuff, where you can contact me as well. and to book your call if you would like to work with me. It would be really cool to help you get to your next level. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Click on the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. Have a great day. Make some great music today, and I'll see you later. Bye.